Hi everyone, it's Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 402 days, Ukraine stands strong against the Russian invasion. The General Staff of Ukraine informs that the Russian army focuses its efforts on capturing Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka, Donetsk Oblast, reports Union. Over the past day, the defense forces of Ukraine repelled more than 70 Russian attacks and hit 11 areas where Russian troops were concentrated. The court in Kyiv has placed Metropolitan Pavlo of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Moscow Patriarchate, the former abbot of the Kyiv-Pечерsk Lavra, under round-the-clock house arrest until 30th of May on suspicion of inciting religious hatred and condoning Russia's armed aggression against Ukraine, reports Ukrainska Pravda. According to the investigation, since the beginning of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, Metropolitan Pavlo has condoned Russia's actions in his communications with believers. It is also claimed that he has spoken out negatively against the Orthodox Church of Ukraine that is independent from Moscow, which may have led to aggressive attitudes towards the church. The Security Service of Ukraine released 2 recordings of Pavlo making statements that he is accused of. When asked if it was indeed his voice on the recordings, Pavlo said, "Maybe I was joking and did say something like that." Metropolitan Pavlo said that the suspicion against him is political and that he had always been against aggression. According to an Ukrainska Pravda source, Metropolitan Pavlo will remain under house arrest in the village of Voronkiv, Boryspil district, Kyiv Oblast. An ankle tag will be used to monitor his whereabouts. Earlier, the Security Service of Ukraine released photos from a search in this house. In the photos, you can see an expensively decorated palace. We would really appreciate if you could rate us in the apps where you are listening to this podcast, ideally with 5 stars, and leave a glowing review. This way more people would learn about the podcast and truth about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In his evening video address, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky informed that on April 1st, Russia began to chair the UN Security Council. And the day before, Russian artillery killed another Ukrainian child, a 5-month-old boy named Danilo from Avdiivka in Donetsk Oblast. His parents were injured in the attack, said Zelensky. He called the situation obviously absurd and destructive. It is hard to imagine something more evident that proves the complete bankruptcy of such institutions. Terrorists must lose, must be held accountable for terror and not preside anywhere, emphasized the president. Volodymyr Zelensky informed that by 2 decrees has put into effect the decisions of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine on sanctions. The limitations have been imposed against, among others, the Federation Council, which is the upper chamber of the Russian parliament, the Russian Ministry of Finance, the Federal Security Service, and the Federal Guard Service of the Russian Federation. Enterprises of the military-industrial complex of Russia and Iran, instrument-making, radio electronics, and the cable industry, reports Ukrinform. According to Zelensky, more than 650 people were added to the sanctions list, among them former president of Motor Sich Company Vyacheslav Boguslayev, accused in Ukraine of high treason. The President of Ukraine thanked Switzerland for joining the 10th sanctions package of the European Union this week. It is important when the states that are neutral in the military-political sense nevertheless take a clear moral position towards Russian terror, stressed Volodymyr Zelensky. Prime Minister of Poland Mateusz Morawiecki announced that Ukraine plans to purchase 100 Polish-made armored personnel carriers Rosomak, Wolverine, reports Deutsche Welle. According to him, the purchase will be funded by the European Union and the United States. Rosomak is a licensed copy of the Finnish armored personnel carrier Patria, developed in 2001. It was used in the war in Afghanistan. In total, 670 such armored personnel carriers have been produced so far. The Highlights from Ukraine podcast is an uncommercial initiative of just 2 people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we're getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.